Shibuya's iconic Halloween festival is in danger of being banned. This is just one example of the many issues tourists face as Japan's tourism policies continue to rapidly change. Japan tourism has nearly returned to pre-pandemic levels faster than anyone could have imagined, with tourist numbers returning to 96% of pre-pandemic levels in September. But as the tourist numbers continue to climb, it seems that overcrowding problems and unruly tourists have also followed suit. In the past few months, Kyoto has banned their once iconic bus pass, Japan Rail has substantially increased the price of the JR Pass, and Mount Fuji implemented a visitor cap, all to try and combat the issues of overcrowding. Now, it seems this issue is starting to impact Tokyo as well, as Shibuya's police are cracking down on disruptive public drinking, and Shibuya's mayor even putting a ban on the iconic Shibuya Halloween Festival. Today, we will cover all these major updates and much more, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive in Japan. Alright, we've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Japan's tourism levels have recovered faster than anyone could have anticipated. Back at the end of February of this year, the country was seeing a measly 56% of tourists returning to the country. Now, just this past September, the gap to pre-pandemic levels has closed almost entirely, as Japan hit 96% of the country's peak tourist numbers, and that was in less than a year since the country opened. What's more concerning is these numbers don't even reflect China's tourists, as China has hardly returned to Japan yet. Because of their current economic situation, the slowing and uncertain Chinese economy has really discouraged a lot of would-be tourists from going out and seeing the world. But I think you know where I'm going with this. Once China begins to recover and its citizens feel more comfortable about traveling abroad, if you combine it with the revenge tourism that is still occurring in Japan, we can expect to see Japan's tourist numbers skyrocket past pre-pandemic levels and really begin to press the issue of overcrowding that is already beginning to plague the major cities of Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. But that is all going to depend on when exactly China's economy is going to start recovering and its citizens feel comfortable about traveling again, which you will be sure to hear from me first as soon as that news becomes available. And while tourist numbers have continued to climb higher and higher, the number of tour guides to match that demand in tourism has unfortunately continued to stagnate. If you were looking for a tour guide to navigate Japan, well, you might be out of luck. As I have mentioned in previous videos, the hospitality sector has taken a big hit in hotel employees and cleaning staff. Due to the pandemic, a lot of people that were once part of the tourism industry were forced to move away from that line of business so they could make money and support their basic living needs. And while the staff shortage only applied to hotels before, it now seems to be branching out even further, with qualified tour guides now becoming a scarce commodity. And while Japan has eased the requirements to have qualified tourists show people around the country, there is still a severe shortage of tour guides. This shortage has become so severe, in fact, that it's forcing some companies to turn potential customers away. And even worse, it's unlikely this problem is going to ease up anytime soon. And while the hospitality sector continues to struggle, the shortage of tour guides hasn't been the only side effect from this surge in tourism. While drinking in public is normally okay or tolerated in most parts of Japan, it appears Shibuya street drinking has begun to get out of hand. Recently, there have been an increase in reports about tourists and locals alike getting excessively drunk in Shibuya's popular streets. This disruptive drinking has caused excessive amounts of litter on the streets and scaring customers away from visiting nearby stores. Because this excessive public drinking has negatively impacted local businesses, Shibuya's police have begun to crack down on the street drinking, patrolling the streets and prohibiting people from loitering and getting drunk on the main streets of Shibuya. And while this ban has previously occurred in Shibuya for popular events like Halloween last year and New Year's Eve, it seems like they have decided to make this a new permanent policy, hoping that tourists will find other places to drink in public rather than having them all convene in one area. And with this recent development, here's my personal advice. If you want to enjoy a beer or chuhai while still roaming the streets of Tokyo, Shibuya isn't the only place where you can do this and have a good time. You can head right over to Kabukicho area in Shinjuku, where there are a lot of people just hanging out at night. You could go to the Ebisu area, which is directly south of Shibuya and is a popular watering hole for Tokyo locals, or you can head over to Roppongi, which is famous for its nightlife as well. Speaking of issues in Shibuya, this isn't the only major change you're going to see from Tokyo's most popular nightlife district. Just a couple weeks ago, Shibuya's mayor made the declaration to unofficially ban the Halloween festival that the area has become become so famous for. Every year, Halloween lovers that are not just from Japan, but all over the world would congregate to the center of Shibuya. Here, they would arrive with their best costumes, roll up with their tricked out cars, drink heavily, and just party the night away. Well, with this newest decree from Shibuya's mayor, it seems like this may no longer be the case, and understandably so. Just last year, as the world began to break out of their COVID quarantines, South Korea experienced a terribly tragic incident, which has infamously been dubbed the Itaewon Crush. During this incident, hundreds of people were crushed due to extreme overcrowding from people just drinking and having a good time. If you consider this terrible incident and combine it with the massive surge of tourism that Japan has been experiencing, it's pretty clear that this country has no interest in seeing the same thing happen in one of their cities, which is why Shibuya has decided to crack down on this unofficial event. And while you aren't necessarily banned from going to Shibuya on Halloween, there will definitely be several strict measures in place. Some of these measures include a drinking ban that will be in effect essentially the entire week of Halloween, and hundreds of police patrolling the area, making sure there aren't any large crowds forming which could pose a threat. But if you are going to be in Tokyo during Halloween and you still want to go see the event despite all the warnings, my advice would be this. I would not plan to stay in the area long at all. You will have fun checking out people's different costumes for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then after that, you'll be seeing just the same people for the rest of the night. Not only that, but with the increased police presence, you are definitely going to be under a very close watch, which, in my opinion, would really detract from the whole experience. And if you pair that with the alcohol ban that's going to be lasting the whole week, you'll be hard-pressed to stay there any longer than 30 minutes. All this footage I've provided so far is from last year, and when we went last year, we did have fun seeing all the cool costumes for about an hour. But after that, we quickly became bored with the event and were ready to move on. Plus, with all the police around us, we were always being told to keep moving, forcing us to walk endlessly for hours and just getting exhausted from the whole experience. And since they've had an entire year since the Itaewon Crush and last year's event, I can bet you that there will be much more strict measures in place this time around. So that's my advice, but let me know in the comments section below if you have a different idea or opinion of the whole situation. And lastly, it seems that Japan isn't the only country looking to combat over-tourism, as European countries are starting to feel the same pain that come with packed crowds and unruly tourists. From small cities in Austria being stretched beyond its capacity, to unruly tourists from Britain plaguing Amsterdam, to even iconic landmarks like the Colosseum in Italy being desecrated by disrespectful visitors, countries across Europe have had to come up with creative measures to combat their own over-tourism problems. For example, Greece has implemented a daily visitor cap on the Acropolis. Italy has begun to impose serious fines for defacing or disrespecting any famous landmark, and Amsterdam has even told young British men to just straight up stay away from their city. And while it's too early to say how effective these measures have been, it definitely seems like Japan has started to follow these same countermeasures. As mentioned before, Mount Fuji had a visitor cap implemented this year, with it most likely carrying over to the next year, and now Shibuya has told visitors to just stay away from the area during Halloween this year. And this is most likely only the beginning for many more measures to come, as the government has stated it is drafting up specific measures to try and keep tourist numbers in check, and is expected to release these guidelines in the near future. But for now, we're just gonna have to wait and see what the government has in store for everybody. But as soon as I catch wind of those updates, you'll be sure to hear them from me first. Like this video if you found it useful, subscribe for more content about Japan, and check out my affiliate links in the description below for when you plan your next trip to Japan. Alright, that's gonna do it, and until next time, I'll see you then.